Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Lancaster County Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. I am Chair of the Board and Commissioner Rick Vest. To my left is Vice Chair Krista Yoakum. To her left, Commissioner Matt Schulte. To my right are Commissioner Sean Flowerday and Chelsea Johnson. Would you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we turn it over to the clerk, I just wanted to thank my fellow commissioners for handling the responsibilities last week as I was away. I had the privilege of traveling to Maryland to see the retirement of my son-in-law, who served 32 years in the United States Army, and he was being retired with honor. It was a real privilege to be there and a reminder of how many people work together to serve this great country and make it the place that we all love. So thank you for that. And Mr. Clerk, if you'd begin the meeting.
A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is located at the wall of the rear of the hearing room. All written materials to be discussed at today's meeting can be viewed on the county's website at lancaster.ne.gov. Printing options available upon request. Brings us to item 1, minutes. Item 1A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held on August 12th, 2025.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Yoakum,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Vest.
Abstain.
Motion carries. 1B, approval of the minutes of the Federal Legislative Summit held on August 5th, 2025.
Move approval. Second.
Motion and second to approve. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Schulte,
Abstain.
Yoakum,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Vest.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 2, claims. 2A, approval of the claims processed through August 15th, 2025.
Move approval. Second.
Motion second to approve. Please call the roll.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Yoakum,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest.
Yes.
Motion carries. 2B, approval of a claim to El Centro de las Americas in the amount of $29,047.43.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Please call the roll.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Yoakum,
I'll abstain as I serve on their board.
Vest.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 3, consent items. These are routine business items that are expected to be adopted without dissent. Any individual item may be removed for special discussion and consideration by a commissioner or by any member of the public without prior notice. Unless there is an exception, these items may be approved as one single vote of the Board of Commissioners. These items are the approval of A, amendments to the following county contracts. C-23-0757 with Pavers Incorporated for the annual supply of cold mix asphalt. C-22-0654 with Dr. Fuelgood for the annual fuel tank maintenance and service. C-25-0176 with Lawson Products Incorporated for maintenance, repair, operation supplies, equipment, and related products and services. C-24-0611 with the Bridge Behavioral Health for the Safe Passage Behavioral Health Engagement Site Program to extend the contract term. B, right-of-way contracts with the following. Butch Cassidy LLC, Saltillo Road Improvement in the total amount of $702,000. John Sampson, second amended and restated revocable trust to Saltillo Road Improvement in the total amount of $100,800. Buckshot Farm, Saltillo Road Improvement in the total amount of $128,520. James and Sandra Becker, Saltillo Road Improvement in the total amount of $21,800. Craig Whitstruck, Mark Whitstruck, and Joan Whitstruck Life Estate, Southwest 58th Street and West Saltillo Road in the amount of $2,594. Sundance LLC, Saltillo Road Improvement in the total amount of $113,000. C, grant contracts with the following: Blue Valley Behavioral Health for the Diversion Evaluations Program in the amount of $4,698. KBC Behavioral Health Care Nebraska for the Truancy Diversion Therapy Program in the amount of $12,845. Lincoln Public Schools for the Truancy Diversion Program in the amount of $105,000. The Hub Central Access Point for Young Adults for the Volunteer Coordination Program in the amount of $40,000. Grant contracts with the following. Item D, KBC Behavioral Health Care Nebraska for the Truancy Diversion and Juvenile Program in the amount of $20,000. The Salvation Army for the Teen Night Program in the amount of $10,000. The Salvation Army for the Shield Program in the amount of $13,000. Visionary Youth for the Mentoring in New Dimensions Program in the amount of $10,000. Item E, setting a public hearing in room 112 of the County City Building on Tuesday, August 26, 2025 at 9 a.m. regarding institution of eminent domain proceedings against New Generation Properties, LLC. And item F, setting a public hearing in room 112 of the County City Building on Tuesday, August 25th, 2025, immediately following the Board of Commissioners meeting regarding Lancaster County's proposed budget for fiscal year 2025-26.
I move approval of the consent items. Second.
Motion and second to approve the consent items. Commissioner.
I just want to point out, all these right-of-way contracts on the Saltillo project, looks like it's over $1 million in right-of-way. That shows that we're moving forward in a way. So thank you to the engineers department for making that work.
Very good. Please call the roll.
Yocum? Excuse me, Yocum?
Yes.
Flowerday?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Schulte?
Yes.
Vest?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 4, new business, 4A, declaration in the matter of declaring a disaster and emergency pursuant to Nebraska Revised Statute 81-829.50 in response to strong and dangerous storms in the county of Lancaster, Nebraska.
Good morning, Jim David Saber, Director, Lincoln, Lancaster County Emergency Management. We certainly suffered some significant impacts from the storms of August 9th and 10th. I appreciate your consideration of this matter. The preliminary estimates I've received to this point total about $2.4 million in damage to public property and critical infrastructure, and there are several more outstanding. It sounds like our power companies, Lincoln Electric System and Norris Public Power, were hit most significantly. NEMA, the Nebraska Emergency Management Agency, is doing everything they can to expedite the matters. They may be able to conduct their official preliminary damage assessment as early as this week. So the sooner we get the process started, the sooner we get things moving in the right direction, and everything, this declaration is the key to that, to make sure that we have the statutory authority to do so.
Very good, Jim. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I know there were a lot of pieces to gather on this one. It was so widespread.
Unfortunately, there will be a lot more information coming about the damage, but as I said, the first responders and those second-tier individuals have literally been working around the clock since then. So we want to do everything we can to get back to that while maintaining continuity of operations.
Thank you. Commissioners.
I move approval of this declaration.
I second.
Motion and second to approve the emergency declaration. Please call the roll.
Schulte?
Yep.
Yocum?
Yes.
Flowerday?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Vest?
Yes.
Motion carries. 4B, setting the salary of Charlie Bird, supervising attorney, in the amount of $158,338.40, effective September 4th, 2025.
Good morning, County Board members. Pat Connon, Lancaster County Attorney, here asking the board to set the salary for Mr. Bird, Charlie, at this level. This is taking the place of Eric Miller, 20-year in our office, who has retired. He's someplace, I think, in California now, so he didn't take much time getting out of here. So, but he's coming back. He went on a little vacation. But anyway, here this morning for this salary. If Charlie is 1995, he was admitted to the bar in North Carolina. He practiced in private practice for about 5 years there, and then went into the district attorney's office in North Carolina. Worked there till 2012, was first assistant chief deputy, and from 2008 to 2012, he has been in our general misdemeanors and handled our sexual assaults, both adult and felony cases, and now, past several years has been in our general felony division. So I am asking the court to, or excuse me, the board to approve this salary. We did talk with HR. They did agree with this being within the range for the supervising salaries. Charlie is here if you had any questions.
Welcome, Mr. Byrd. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're willing to take on additional responsibility, it sounds like.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about your work and why you are glad to be a part of the county attorney's office.
Well, as Pat said, I am in the general felonies division. I've been there approximately 4 or 5 years. I've prosecuted since 2000. And when I went from private practice to prosecuting, I was told by several people that I was much better prosecuting than I was defending. It's just kind of been a calling. I've always wanted to be involved with the prosecution since my law school days back in North Carolina, and it's just a calling I've strived to do, and I feel like I'm at home here.
Very good. Sounds like we're very fortunate to have you. Commissioners, any questions?
No.
I'd entertain a motion.
I move approval.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Please call the roll.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yep.
Yocum,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Best.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Brings us to item 4C, a special designated license application from Hallam Volunteer Fire and Rescue Incorporated for a fundraiser rodeo event on September 6, 2025 at Randy Adams Memorial Rodeo Arena.
How's it going? Ryan Skillett, Hallam Fire Chief. So it's just basically a fundraiser for the Hallam Fire Department. We're raising money for extrication equipment to be battery powered instead of hydraulic like we currently have. So allows us for faster deployment, faster care, things like that. So we've been doing it this is the 5th year now. We've had the local establishments do the liquor license, and this year we're going to try and take it over just because new ownerships have changed and things like that. So just going to try it ourselves and go from there.
As we said here as commissioners, we just get to see a lot of people who volunteer their time and skills throughout Lancaster County, and the rural fire departments are one of the big ones. Your commitment to the larger community is exemplary, and we deeply appreciate all that you all do.
Thank you. I move approval.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Please call the roll.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yep.
Yocum,
Yes.
Vest.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Brings us to item 4D, ratification of a subaward agreement with the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services for child support enforcement services provided by the Lancaster County Attorney's Office for the period of October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2029.
I move approval.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Please call the roll.
Yocum,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yep.
Vest.
Yes.
Motion carries. 4E, amendment to a subaward agreement with the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services for child support enforcement services provided by the Lancaster County Attorney's Office for the period of October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2029.
I move approval.
Second.
Motion second to approve item E. Please call the roll.
Schulte,
Yep.
Yocum,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Vest.
Yes.
Motion carries. 4F, agreement with the district court clerk and the Nebraska State Historical Society to allow the district court clerk to digitize historical court records and make them available via web access.
Simon Rezak, Clerk District Court. This is an agreement that we've set up with the Nebraska State Historical Society. We've had microfilm that, beyond what we had kept in our office and had transferred to the state. This is an opportunity we're able to bring back some of that microfilm included in our contract where we have with BMI to scan it all in and include it in our master file that we're setting up for digital imaging. This is no cost to the county.
Well, we've been better.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and second. My first question, Simon, is, let me just say, it's good to see you here this morning.
Thank you.
How's your recovery?
Doing well.
You look good, so you're
Thanks.
moving around.
Yes,
I'm just glad your injuries were no worse, so.
yes.
Motion and second to approve. Please call the roll.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Yocum,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
For G, contract with Interconnects LLC for security and surveillance installation, maintenance, and repair services. Cost shall not exceed $250,000. Excuse me. Cost shall not exceed $250,000.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Any discussion?
I'm just trying to pull the thing to it. Where is this
That was my question.
for? It says the Public Building Commission, but.
This is a general contract for.
Oh, okay, so it's,
Not specific.
thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Dave. Please call the roll.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yep.
Yocum,
Yes.
Vest.
Yes.
Motion carries. For H, acceptance of a state grant award and special conditions for the Nebraska Crime Commission in the amount of $128,156.36 for justice enhancement programs.
Good morning. Leslie Aarons with Lincoln Lancaster County Human Services. This is for the conference that our department and the Nebraska Crime Commission had in June. So they are essentially reimbursing us for the scholarships that were offered to participants.
Very good. I move approval.
Second.
We really appreciate all the work you all put into doing that. Thank you.
It was a
Please.
great conference. We had a great turnout.
Motion second to approve. Please call the roll.
Yocum,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yep.
Vest.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I just wanted to say that conference also did, I mean, people from across the state
Mm-hmm.
were present. Within the week, I was in the Scottsbluff area and met someone who had been at the conference, so it was good reach.
Brings us to 4I, the grant contract with El Centro de las Americas for the Latino Youth Program in the amount of $135,000.
This program is with the nonprofit El Centro for their youth program, where they serve youth in the community.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Schulte,
Yes.
Yocum,
I will abstain.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Vest.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Leslie.
For J, recommendations from the purchasing agent on behalf of the county engineer to award and execute purchase orders on crushed and run rock surface and coarse material to the following: Gana Trucking and Excavating in the amount of $304,670, Buell Trucking Incorporated in the amount of $906,000, RL Teeman Construction in the amount of $943,090, and Westover Rock and Sand in the amount of $69,900.
Good morning. I'm Curtis Hunt with the Lancaster County Engineering Assistant Road Maintenance Superintendent. This is to replenish our stockpiles out throughout the county. So, yeah.
We buy it for a reason, right? Kurt?
Yeah,
It
that's
goes
right.
out.
Keep the complaints down. So,
I was just gonna say, it comes up every year. I move approval.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Please call the roll.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yep.
Yocum,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest.
Yes.
Motion carries. Brings us to 4K. Recommendation from the purchasing agent on behalf of the county engineer to award and execute purchase orders for the supply and hauling of gravel, surface, coarse material to the following: Infinity Excavating LLC in the amount of $570,000, RL Teeman Construction in the amount of $706,440, Mid Nebraska Aggregate Incorporated in the amount of $282,575, Buell Trucking Incorporated in the amount of $236,000, and Southwest Gravel Products LLC in the amount of $54,400.
Again, just those gravel amounts throughout the county that we need to replenish. So,
I move approval.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Any discussion?
I'm just curious, without looking back through past history, how do these costs compare? Is it staying pretty stable, or are we seeing these costs go up as well?
Right now, from last year, we're down because we replenished a lot last year as well, but we used a lot as well, and the prices somewhat went up in gravel and whatnots. But right now, we're under what we spent last year.
Thank you.
Please call the roll.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Yocum,
Yes.
Vest.
Yes.
Motion carries. Brings us to 4L. Recommendation from the purchasing agent on behalf of the county engineer to award and execute a purchase order to Kimco Incorporated for 304 stainless steel conveyor in the amount of $91,106.36.
Good morning, Council. Oak Williams, Facilities and Fleet Manager on behalf of Lancaster County Engineering Department. I am presenting a picture of a new hopper and conveyor belt for salt production.
So it's to load into trucks in the winter.
This will ultimately load into our salt sheds.
Oh, okay.
This will make, I guess, loading mass quantities a lot easier. This is an additional piece for the southern half of the county.
So this will put it in our sheds for storage, and then we'll take it out when needed.
We will take it out with a piece of equipment, a wheel loader.
Okay, real good. It reminds me of putting hay in barns about 60 years ago, so anyway.
Move approval.
Enough of that. So, yeah, motion and second to approve. Please call the roll.
Yocum,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Vest.
Yes, and thank you. We do appreciate pictures.
Thank you for your time, Council.
Motion carries. Commissioners, that brings us to item 5, our public hearing. Public hearing on text amendment 25009 to amend the following provisions of the Lancaster County zoning regulations. Article 2 to add a definition of battery energy storage system. Article 4 to add battery storage system as an allowable use in the AG district by special permit. And Article 13 by adding a new special permit with conditions.
Let me just lay the foundation here, George, before we get started. I will now open the public hearing. If you wish to testify this morning, or there will be an order of testimony. Let me lay that out. We start with staff members with George, and then I know we have someone from the health department here. The applicant will follow the staff members, then any proponents wishing to testify, followed by any opponents, followed by anyone testifying in a neutral capacity, after which the staff may come back up if there's anything they want to add or if the commissioners have any questions. And finally, then the applicant does get the final piece of testimony. If you come up to testify during any of those categories, you'll be asked to be sworn in and sign in. We will limit testimony to 5 minutes today. And the board will not be voting today at this point. Are we still waiting on some information, Matt? Do we need a little more time?
I think the second will work.
We will be voting in 2 weeks on Tuesday, September 2nd, with the final decision of the board on this proposed text amendment. Anything else, commissioners, we need to share before we get started? All right, Mr. Clerk.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. George Wesselhoff, Planning Department. Good morning, Commissioners. I know this item was presented to you twice before at briefing, once last Thursday and once in July, so I'll be very brief in my presentation here. First of all, I would note that this is a private application by David Levy or his firm representing Yolin LLC, a private company. And the change or text amendment proposal to the Lancaster County zoning regulations really has 3 components. The first is to add a definition for the battery energy storage system, or BESS. The second is to amend the agricultural provisions to allow the BESS as a special permit in the agricultural district. And finally, to include the provisions specific to the special permit as far as the conditions. And I'll just briefly go over those. So first off, it would have to be used in association with energy transmission, substations, and/or solar and/or wind energy conversion systems. And then the Planning Commission would have the ability to adjust setbacks or landscaping provisions on a case-by-case basis. There's also a provision at the end where the Planning Commission may make other adjustments as needed on a case-by-case basis. I know there were a number of letters submitted, I think over 30, to the Planning Commission in opposition when this was considered by the Planning Commission. A number of those had concerns about life and safety issues, and that aspect or those aspects were reviewed early on, actually with the corresponding city version respective of the agricultural district. And so we had, early on, we had LFR, Lincoln Fire and Rescue, look at the proposal, Health Department, Building and Safety, and life and safety concerns are included in the proposed provisions of the text amendment. Specifically for the fire, they would have to submit an emergency action plan that would include to the applicable rural fire district. And then for the Health Department, and we do have health representation here, they could speak further on this, but safety data sheet information for the battery chiller systems would have to be provided. And then also the proposed BESS would have to adhere to the sound regulations that would be comparable to the city of Lincoln. So with that, I can answer any questions that you may have.
George, this process has already gone through the city. It's been adopted within the city jurisdiction, is that correct?
That is correct. That was approved by the city council. With the city version, there was also commercial and industrial districts inside the city limits, but the comparison area for this text amendment would be specifically the 3-mile jurisdiction of Lincoln where there's agricultural zoning. And I would note initially at the very first request of the applicant, they were proposing a conditional use for the city version, and ultimately agreed that it would be appropriate for the special permit on the basis that rural landowners might not expect this type of use out in agricultural areas. And so the applicant agreed with that, and the county proposal is the same.
And I might have gotten confused on what you said there. The text amendment today would only be in regards to territory outside the 3-mile jurisdiction of the city of Lincoln and the surrounding communities. Is that right?
That's correct. This would be for Lancaster County. The version of the city as it pertains to the agricultural district and the 3-mile is very similar to this.
Okay. That clarifies it. So then this is for private entities. If a public entity wanted to add a storage facility, a battery storage facility, are they under any requirements from county statutes?
No, a public entity would be exempt. That would include Norris Public Power or LES.
Okay, and this is be specifically then for any private companies wishing to
Correct.
put in battery storage in. Okay, real good. Appreciate that. Commissioners, any questions?
You said you talked with Lincoln Fire and Rescue. Have you guys talked with rural districts about this specifically?
No, we haven't talked to any specific rural districts, but Lincoln Fire and Rescue looked at the early proposal and
Lincoln Fire and Rescue has nothing to do with this though, because it's outside, because it's in the rural, right?
Right, understood. So the emergency action plan is actually found, this provision is found in another special permit that was where you could have the rural fire districts review it. That would be for another special permit. So we thought it would be similar to follow that same process.
Prior to when would that review happen by rural?
They would have to submit that before it is approved.
I guess, well, go
He's saying
ahead.
before it's approved on a special permit. This is the text amendment, is what he's saying.
I'm just curious, how is that similar or different than, because we recently had with the solar farm issue, there was a question about rural fire, was that before it was proposed to us as well?
So the solar special permit that was recently approved has similar provisions, and they would have to have that in place before the final approved plan could be approved, before they could get a building permit for the project.
Yeah. But I mean, I do draw some comfort from the fact that the Lincoln Fire Department has reviewed these standards and they didn't find any objections. They were agreeable to the standards proposed.
Right, and I would also note that Building and Safety did review the city proposal, and they said generally it would be on a case-by-case basis. So they have building codes and fire codes that they would review on a case-by-case basis. And I think the applicant may speak to some of the codes that their industry has to follow nationally as far as fire codes that would be applicable as far as this proposal.
And that would be the difference between a special permit and a text amendment. This is kind of a broad-based standard that would apply to the whole county. A special permit would be for a specific area and involve specific entities in that area. So the other thing I would add that you mentioned, George, these can always be added on to by the planning commission or the county board if it reaches us. We have the right to, we retain the right to modify the standards in whatever way we deem fit.
Correct, yes. This is a general text amendment proposal. There's a number of provisions in it that allow for the planning commission, or if appealed, the county board could tweak it or adjust it based on a case-by-case basis, including setbacks, landscapings, or other conditions as found appropriate.
And I would add that we have done that as a group. We've done it numerous times, so. Okay, that's all I have. That's all I have. Anything else for George, commissioners? Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Next up is the applicant.
Good morning, Chair Vest, Vice Chair Yoakum. Oh, sorry.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Can you both state your names for the record?
David Levy.
Justin Adams.
Okay, thank you. We do have a presentation. We have copies there for the commissioners, clerk, attorneys, and staff as well. I think we can pull that up.
I can also flip through, or
yeah, I think
just give it a second. It's
they're coming.
Thank you.
Oh, mine's upside down. Megan, we named. Doesn't seem to be responding.
Technical assistance.
I don't see it on the
Okay.
desktop.
No, we sent it and it was loaded.
I never got a copy of it.
You know, we didn't have the help.
I don't. I sent it to George.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you use a copy of the document?
Oh, yeah.
Here, let's just
Yeah,
use
we can do that.
instead.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
If someone has a question, we'll get them up.
Okay, technical difficulties, maybe not resolved, but avoided. Again, good morning, Chair Vest, Vice Chair Yoakum, Commissioners. David Levy, Baird Home Law Firm, 625 South 14th Street, Lincoln, Nebraska, on behalf of the applicant, Eolian LP. Here with me is Justin Adams from Eolian. I'll have him introduce himself in just a second. I do want to make a few remarks before I turn this over to Justin to go through a short presentation that we have. Chair Vest, I know you mentioned 5 minutes. We may be a little bit longer than that, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah, the applicant.
Okay, we'll be brief, however, but thank you. I appreciate that. I just, again, I think the dialogue, Mr. Chairman, that you had with Mr. Wesselhoff set the stage here well and explained what this is, but I want to emphasize a couple of points. This is utility infrastructure that we're talking about here. This is a text amendment, not a special permit for any particular project. This is a text amendment to allow privately developed standalone battery storage energy systems within the county's zoning jurisdiction. This is not wind energy. This is not solar energy. This is utility infrastructure, battery energy storage systems typically built adjacent to or nearly adjacent to a large utility substation. As was talked about, the City Council unanimously approved a similar text amendment just a couple of months ago. And with that, I will turn it over to Justin. We're certainly happy then to answer, or at any time to answer any commissioner questions, and we will welcome the opportunity for rebuttal. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Hello and thank you. My name is Justin Adams. I'm here with Aeolian Energy. We're a private developer that develops energy infrastructure projects throughout the country. We have a, is it now?
It should be coming up. There you go.
Yeah. So yes, we have work throughout the country involving energy investments. We've done quite a bit of work in wind and solar, and we are also developing several battery storage projects throughout the country to meet and help the nation and the regions that we develop in support their energy needs and encourage development and all the benefits that come along with reliable energy. We have 4 operational projects. This slide is actually a bit out of date. We have, since this was printed, commissioned 2 more. So we have a total of 4 operating projects in Texas. The 3 on the slide here have been operational for 4 to 5 years. They've been very successful in helping Texas stabilize their grid and achieve reliability for its consumers, despite extreme weather events and other extraneous stresses to the grid. The other locations, we just recently commissioned a project in Portland, Oregon, and then there's another one here on the slide, a much smaller one in California. That's our oldest. That one has been operational for 6 or more years. But we do work in all of the different ISOs throughout the country. We work to interconnect within the ISO, and that happens through an interconnection process where we can go into that a little more if we want to later on.
And just to clarify, the ISO is the independent system operator, in our case, Southwest Power Pool.
Thank you, David.
Yes.
So the concept of energy storage is not new. The grid does experience peaks and valleys throughout the day, on any given day, depending on the usage and the demand. The general rule of thumb is that when people are home in the morning, there's a small peak because they're cooking or making their coffee, cooking their breakfast. Their air conditioners or heaters might be on, and then at the evening time, there's a second peak. So what energy storage does is essentially helps to, this goes to the infrastructure piece, it helps to even out those peaks. So a 200 megawatt, in the example given here, a 200 megawatt battery storage facility could power 34,000 homes. That essentially knocks off all that power demand for 34,000 homes at any given time. And a smooth usage of power helps to conserve power. Essentially, there's quite a bit of power that's being made today, probably more than we all need, and by storing it when it's in oversupply and then releasing it when its demand is greater is a good way to help create reliability. Typically, they're a 4-hour duration. These peaks and valleys aren't particularly long. They could be shorter, but 4 hours is the sweet spot that has been studied and determined to be about the best for the grid. They need to be adjacent or near an existing substation. We would interconnect into a substation. We would look a whole lot like a substation, with the exception of not having a whole lot of overhead catenary and wires and stuff. Everything on the site is underground, with the exception of the wire that goes directly into the substation. No services really are required for this. it essentially operates quietly in the community, and the vast majority of people would probably never know it was there. It would comply with all building codes and standards, whatever the most current building code and fire code is in the state or region that we'd be operating in. And then we go above and beyond in regions where perhaps the fire code has not yet adopted some of the newer battery safety standards. And safety, fire-related incidences for energy storage are very rare. They do make some headlines when they do occur, but the industry has been growing quite rapidly, as the slide shows, 25,000% since 2018. And over the past 10 years, there's been 20 incidences, and those incidences aren't, they run a gamut of the whatever may have happened. There are quite a bit of regulations that revolve around energy storage and the operation of these energy storage facilities. At the beginning, to interconnect to the grid, we have to operate in a certain way, and that is approved by the grid operator. We cannot put into the grid something that might fail or create an unsafe condition. Beyond that, the UL rating for these systems is quite rigorous, where we have to only install these facilities that have achieved this UL certification, similar to many of the electrical pieces of equipment you might have in your home.
What is UL?
United Laboratories.
Underwriters Laboratories.
Underwriter Laboratories.
I know what UL is. I'm asking for the
Underwriter Laboratories. So it is an industry standard that sets safety standards for a full gamut of products that are used in homes and businesses throughout the country. And the specific standard for batteries, UL 9540A, takes the battery through a host of fire, where they actually set the battery on fire to see how it would burn. And if it propagates when it's burning, then it would not pass that UL certification. So what I mean by propagate is it would spread throughout the battery system, either internally in one container or to the adjacent container. There's two different standards, and it has to pass both of those. It cannot spread internally, and it can't spread to the next container. So if a fire incident were to occur, it would be isolated to a single container. And to further that standard, NFPA 855 sets installation standards. So this would be separation from adjacent properties, separation inside the yard, and also seismic standards and a whole host of other building and safety related development standards for the site.
And NFPA is National Fire Protection Association, correct?
Yes. Yeah. And NFPA is used in the International Building Code to set a number of these same standards for the installation of the battery. And then the International Building Code is what the city or county of Lincoln would adopt as their building code. So it starts with the NFPA 855 that's adopted by the International Building Code, and then some or all or even of those standards are brought into the local building code.
And even if those standards are not in the building code, international codes are updated typically every 3 years. Mm-hmm. A lot of times local jurisdictions are an edition or two behind. Even if that were the case, and the current code that Lincoln or Lancaster County was using was a little bit older code that hadn't yet adopted NFPA 55, Eolian or any developer of a system like this would have to comply with NFPA 855, or they wouldn't be able to finance or interconnect the project. So there's kind of a belt and suspenders there. It may very well, and soon likely would be, in the International Building Code or International Fire Code that Lincoln and Lancaster County would enforce. Even if it wasn't quite up to date yet, they would still abide by that standard, because the practical and financial and electric industry realities of a project like this is that you have to meet that latest code.
The current version is 2023. They're working on a 2026 version. This evolves with time and just improves with time.
There's a question I had.
Good.
You can't insure a facility without having the most current building
That was always my assumption.
An insurance company.
The insurance makes you do it anyway.
So we can't operate without that. I mean,
And before you move off safety,
Sure,
can I just
of
ask a couple questions? So
Please.
one specific instance that's been brought up to my attention several times is the Moss Landing
Mm-hmm.
fire. Were they following this code?
they were not. That facility was built prior to NFPA 855 even existing. So there's quite a few differences with that facility. It was also indoors. It was within a building. So that created a much greater fire risk or a far more destructive fire probability. So that facility could not be built today.
And just to contrast that a little bit further, so as Justin said, that was in a single building, think a warehouse. What we're talking about, what you would build today is individual steel containers. So again, the individual cells within the battery have to be separated and insulated from each other. Individual batteries within the container separated and insulated from each other per the UL 9540 standards. And then even if that didn't work, they're contained within a steel shipping container essentially that is constantly monitored for heat, for electric deviations and things like that. And any deviation from how it's supposed to be operating would immediately shut down the operation of the batteries in that container.
Yeah, there is automated response that the facility or the container can do to shut down. There's a person watching it 24/7 that can shut it down and control it. There are cameras on each of these containers, and including infrared cameras to look for any heat that might not be detected for whatever reason. There is a series of redundant safety features that are put in place to limit or eliminate any sort of fire risk that these might be, including being outdoors. They are sitting literally outdoors, not within a building.
And then just real quick, going back a page, is this a proposed site that you have on this?
We have not made any formal applications. It is meant to be an example of what and how close a facility could be to the substation.
Is this like an aerial of Lancaster County?
Yes.
I think what's important there, though, is you can see this is, as Justin said, a typical example. You've got a utility substation there and then a whole bunch of other infrastructure there as well. So again, this becomes part of utility infrastructure that we have in cities and counties everywhere.
And and like I was alluding to earlier, there are no overhead wires. The containers themselves are about 8 feet tall, 20 feet long.
The one exception on the overhead wire, the red line
That red
there,
line, yes,
in a
would be
typical
overhead.
installation would be
Yeah.
overhead, but that would be the only thing.
Which
And
would-
you can see there, that's pretty short. The goal is to make that as short as possible, just from an economic standpoint.
And they can be buffered. I mean, landscaping and the like, fencing walls, you can really reduce or eliminate any sort of visual impact.
We've got some pictures at the end, too, that'll give you a sense of what one of these might look like.
The economics of this, they are generally, there's a lot of temporary construction jobs that are involved in the building of these. Long-term, there's a few jobs that are local that would be in the operation of it. Those would generally be technicians, people that could operate the facility. So if there were a reason for someone to go out to the facility, a local person employed by the operator of the facility would be sent out to triage, answer questions, whatever. The real economic driver of this is sort of extraneous. It creates reliable power and capacity within a region, which has been shown to, if you have good power and reliable power, it will spur development and economic growth. And there's a lot of numbers here. I won't go into them all. This is just an example of a 200 megawatt energy storage facility that we did a study on in a different part of Nebraska, in Washington County.
But I will say on this, too, and I know some of you know this or have read about this as well, if you talk to the Nebraska Department of Economic Development, governor's office, people like that, they will tell you the utilities, NPPD, OPPD, LES, that right now a lack of electrical capacity is limiting the economic development and growth of our state. Period, full stop. We had a project, we had a client with almost $1 billion project, agricultural product project in outstate Nebraska, and they're now building that project in Texas because we could not supply them with electricity for almost a decade, and they couldn't wait that long. Battery energy storage is the fastest energy and capacity to market that's available at this time.
But it
So
doesn't increase the capacity.
it does.
It doesn't increase the output. It doesn't increase the generation.
The generation is there. When there is excess generation, that's load shedding, so that the load just goes off to another region or outside of the state of Nebraska. What this does is capture the power that's there and maximizes its use. So instead of shedding load, we catch that load, and then it's used at a different time of day when it's needed.
My understanding has always been that with these types of projects, it literally means you have to build less other types of generation. It literally means
In general, there's not
no, it's not a one for one.
There's not a bright line, but yes, that's essentially.
It frees you up in other ways. So.
We have a number. Yeah, there's a number of power plants that exist now that are making enough power to power the needs of Nebraska.
It makes what you have more useful and more efficient and more effective.
Just a few more things, and then we'll get into the questions, which I think is
You want me to do this one?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So currently under Nebraska law, battery energy storage systems are taxed as personal property. That means that as with all personal property, they have a maximum value in year one. They depreciate per a depreciation schedule. Nebraska follows federal law as to depreciation schedules. The depreciation is the valuation for property tax purposes. Property taxes, of course, are valuation times levy rate. So currently, under the current system, battery energy storage pay a lot of property taxes at first and almost no property taxes after 6 or 7 years of operating. It's still a big influx of property taxes, and those are really net new property taxes because, as Justin said, these really don't use any infrastructure. They're not using roads. They're not sending people to school in large numbers. They're not using water, all those kinds of things. So under the current taxing system, a 200 megawatt project would generate approximately $8.5 million in new property tax revenue. Not a small thing. I am almost certain that there will be legislation in 2026 in the Nebraska legislature to put battery energy storage under the nameplate capacity tax system, which exists today for wind and solar. And that was put in place in 2010 by the legislature for wind and solar to address exactly this same issue. Essentially, everything above the ground is personal property. So you have a huge influx of property tax revenue. You have a huge property tax bill right at the beginning. That's not great for either party. And then it goes down quickly. County might get a bunch of money, do something with it, and then that goes away. That makes budgeting difficult. Nameplate capacity tax levels that out over the projected life of the facility. And as you can see there, that would also approximately double the amount of property tax that a project like this would pay. Those property taxes under the nameplate tax are distributed to the taxing entities just like any other property tax. So it would go to Lincoln Public Schools, Norris School District, about 2/3, 25% to the county, the rest to the other taxing jurisdictions. You might say, why would an industry go along with putting something in a tax system that's going to double the amount of tax that they pay? It's predictable. It's easy to administer. It smooths out their tax bill. Time value of money is very important.
Time value of money.
Time value of money is a huge deal. And so rather than having that huge tax bill right at the beginning, right when you've spent all the hundreds of millions of dollars to develop the facility, you've barely started operating and making revenue, this smooths that out. It also provides predictability for the county and the schools and the taxing entities. I don't know. I will not hazard a guess as to what exactly the legislature will do, but I am confident there will be a bill proposing that, and I think that will be welcome.
We support the proposed text amendment. It was covered quite well earlier in our talk so far.
Yeah, and then just quickly, some pictures. I know you've got the...
Yeah. This is an 11 megawatt project, quite a bit smaller than many of them are being built today, but you can see it can exist in a more densely populated area. This is a Texas facility that's been in operation for a number of years.
Are these your projects?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just for context, commissioners, two things on this one. The Fort Worth, Texas picture, you can see the battery facility is quite a bit smaller than the substation. And for context and a land use standpoint, Justin, the container field there is about 8 or 10 acres, is that right?
Yeah, that's roughly correct.
So gives you some sense of the size that this would occupy. Not small, but not huge either.
Yeah, and the pictures, I like it. It's agricultural, there's some residential properties, and then in the far distance in the background is Fort Worth, Texas. And the last one is in a more rural area of Texas, near the Rio Grande. Just another example of what a facility would or could look like in an area like Nebraska.
Thank you. And again, I just want to emphasize text amendment. This is putting this as a land use, a special permit land use, so it would require a public hearing at the Planning Commission, public hearing potentially at the county board if appealed, if and when there's a project proposed. That's not the case at this time. This is just putting the rules and regulations into place. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions, and we'll certainly stick around.
Thank you.
Commissioners, I know I have several, but go
I've got
ahead,
a couple
Matt, if you want to
questions.
start.
At the state, you guys proposed LB 349, and in the hearing on that, you said that you couldn't do this without the state law being adjusted to allow battery storage. I'm just curious what's changed. Why all of a sudden can you now do it?
I don't know that we said we couldn't do it. You may have a transcript there in front of you. The reality of the state law today is that a standalone battery energy storage system like what we're talking about here would go to the Nebraska Power Review Board, and they would have a discretionary administrative law type of trial hearing, and it would be up to the Power Review Board whether to approve that project or not based on standards that they have in statutes. In statute, we'd have to prove that the project met those standards. If we could do that, then they could approve that project.
The other thing, you guys just gave us a bunch of examples of them, but all the states you gave us examples of are places where we don't have public power, whereas in Nebraska we have public power, and I feel like that significantly changes the conversation about how this system operates or benefits the community as well as benefits the owner.
So to me, this provides an opportunity for a public utility to partner with a private developer to build a facility that would benefit that utility and benefit its customers. I don't want to be presumptuous, but the goal is to partner with the utilities. You have to interconnect to the utility transmission system, so you have to work with the utilities. The ideal goal, again, is to partner with them and provide them a benefit and a resource so that they don't have to take the capital risk and the operational risk. They can, if you will, rent the apartment instead of pay to build the house. That can be a benefit to the ratepayers by smoothing out the costs of it. These guys have done this many times. They're experts in it. Utilities can benefit from that. The other thing I would say is one of their biggest projects serves the city of San Antonio, Texas, which is actually the biggest public power utility in the country. So there are clear examples of these projects working very well with public power entities, not just private entities. Nebraska is the only state in the country where all retail electric providers have to be customer-owned, is what public power really means. But most other states have some kind of public power utility, municipal utilities, whatever it might be. Again, city of San Antonio being the largest in the country to my knowledge.
I hear you and I understand what you're saying. However, OPPD, NPPD all opposed a bill at the state that would permit this. So that's what you're saying is negated by their opposition to this type of project.
I would respectfully disagree with that. I would also say in this context, Lancaster County can, and in my view respectfully should, put into its zoning regulations the opportunity for somebody to bring forward a special permit application. We've talked to Lincoln Electric System about these applications. They've said that they don't object to the text amendment. If and when a special permit application comes forward, they may show up and object, they may not. Lincoln Electric System recently permitted, I think it's a 13 megawatt energy storage system through the Power Review Board with, in conjunction, co-applicant with a private developer. Neither OPPD nor NPPD opposed that application. So that it's an evolving situation with the utilities. Again, my respectful opinion is that that shouldn't bear on whether Lancaster County opens itself for this kind of business, for the private investment and the property tax revenue that this kind of private investment could bring to the county.
Anything else matter?
Not right now.
We'll come back to you if we need to, my
Sounds
friend.
good.
Krista?
Yeah, my question, thank you for a lot of the explanation because you did answer a lot of the questions that I had. The one thing that concerns me is in the pictures, the examples that you gave us, these look very industrial. Now, they're neat, they're tidy, but they're industrial. And when we're looking at putting them in more rural settings, what type of landscaping, what type of things work? Because what I see here are fences, and
Yeah.
that's not,
Yeah, and the photos, with the exception of the California one, we had a stamped concrete wall in order to shield it from the. In Texas, they have a different standard of, but in this particular situation, like I was saying earlier, they are modular systems, so they can be arranged in a way, they can be buffered. Any parcel that it could be put on would be oversized, and then you could use the remaining space to put a variety of landscaping features into it. I agree with you. A metal fence would probably not be our first choice for screening these, and we would work with through the process to develop a landscaping design and plan that would be harmonious with the community, or at least,
And Vice Chair Yocum, the only thing I would add is, I agree, a great point, something I think very well dealt with in the special permit process. When you've got a site, we know who's living across the street or not, or what's across the street or not. There is an existing utility substation there, so there is some infrastructure already, but your point remains and is well taken. And typically a developer would hire a landscape architect and propose a landscaping and buffering plan as part of the special permit application. I would certainly advise them to do so.
Yeah, I would look forward to that process. I mean, that's a great public discussion.
Right.
How to make it look. Yeah.
Good. Commissioner Johnson, Flowerdale?
I'm good.
I have a few, and I'm going to follow through your presentation here. The first one that I think is important here, on page 5, it says, must be adjacent to existing large utility infrastructure with large parcels available. So, from my understanding, economically, the further away from the utility infrastructure, the less economically feasible it would be. It wouldn't make sense to move them very far away. Is that it?
Yeah, that's correct. There would, despite it would be quite difficult to run lines cross country. That's one major impediment. There are also things called line loss, where the power loops through the lines, and the farther you are away from the facility, you would be losing more power during that line loss process. So yes, you're correct. It's a far more profitable venture for us to be next to adjacent.
Okay.
It really makes it almost impractical to be any farther than adjacent.
Give us a rough, and we're not writing this down, but a rough idea of what the range your company would prefer to be in from a substation.
The projects we've developed and built haven't been more than a couple thousand feet, maybe 3,000 feet tops.
So you're talking as a range to your question, Mr. Chairman, anywhere from over the fence
Next
to
door.
maybe a half mile. Right over the fence being ideal, if you can do it, but beyond a half mile, it really starts to get impractical and uneconomic.
And usually, yeah, if you get farther away, they would, overhead may be infeasible, you got to put it underground. I mean, there's all these different factors that also come into play if you're farther away.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. It made sense to me that economically you'd want to be as close as possible. I guess, and I asked George about this and others, and I'm not aware, and I don't know if anybody does know, how many substations are located outside the city's 3-mile jurisdiction in Lancaster County between Norris Public Power or OPPD perhaps on the north. I don't know if there's...
I can think of 3. I'm sure there's more.
I had a conversation about that very question with Lincoln Electric, not a scientific survey, and they were thinking both Lincoln, the entirety of Lancaster County, including the city of Lincoln, and I said, are there 10 substations that would be large enough to facilitate a utility scale system like that? And their response was it's probably closer to 5. So I think a fair answer to your question is between 5 and 10. Again, unscientific, and I don't want to paint Lincoln Electric
Right. We're
locking them into that answer, but that was the phone conversation I had with them.
What even whittles it down further is there could be a substation, but it could have no available capacity to handle anything extra.
Right, if it's in the middle of the
even,
city.
I mean, there's a lot of winnowing and sifting that goes through to make it work at a certain.
Yeah, because you would have to get permission from the grid to add a battery.
That's correct.
You
Yes.
can't just say, we're here, thanks for letting us in.
Right.
You know, it's a marvelous thing that we don't think about. You go home, you turn the lights on, you flip on the TV, lower the, whatever, it's there. And, we were on the board when we went through the historic freeze that went from Canada through Texas. I mean, everywhere, the whole Southwest. Who knew we were in the Southwest power grid? That's when I learned all about it. And guess what? It stood up to extreme record cold temperatures all the way through the Midwest, and they took enough precautions that it held together. So this is a very complex entity, and they just don't let anybody back up and plug their truck in.
Yeah, and what I didn't cover, it gets a little bit into the weeds of how these things function, but they don't only do the peak and valley. They can also do frequency regulation, which also, if there's a frequency that goes off from whatever reason in the grid, the battery can inject seconds or minutes of power that can help stabilize the grid as well. So that gets back to the infrastructure. It's infrastructure that helps even the grid and make it safer and better.
It's a little bit like a long time ago when the vacuum cleaner would go on and the TV and the lights would go.
Right.
Right. When you flip on the steel plant, that can happen on the grid. This helps keep the grid running levelly at all time, which helps its reliability, is better for the equipment, makes it last longer, all of those things.
Yeah, that actually makes sense to me. I was impressed by the monitoring that goes on in these so not only are the battery components individualized and sheltered, if you were, sequestered, each unit is, then each storage facility is, and these are monitored, you said 24/7 with someone who has information about what's going on in each individual building.
Right, that's correct. And in fact, I got a story to share where we were in Texas and there was some regular maintenance going on down there, and one of the facilities had 300,000 individual battery cells. So those are cells which make a battery, which are packed into the steel containers. They were replacing 4 of those cells out of 300,000. So they could tell which 4 weren't operating just right, and they were going out and just taking them out and putting a new one in.
In my 40 years with the railroad, I know that safety measures improve over time, and sometimes different things which are not positive become learning experiences to do better. It sounds like your industry's done that. The last one, I think, for me is, how long do these batteries hold? What's their storage capacity as far as duration? Because, you know, peak times, you're gonna fill them up.
Yeah,
How long will that?
4 hours is the sweet spot. They can go longer. They can be 6 or 8 hours, but 4 is the what the grid is demanding at this point. And
So if it was attached to a solar farm, then you'd fill up during the day when the sun is out, you'd be at capacity, the sun goes down, you would slowly, after 4 hours, you would start to lose some of your capacity.
you would lose it all in 4 hours. It would just be like any other battery.
Oh, it'd
Yeah.
be like any battery then, without, okay.
This, though, being a standalone system, you have I mean, you speak to this better than I can, but it's not, it's unusual that it goes from 0 to full and full to 0. It's constantly.
It takes about 4 hours to charge and 4 hours to discharge.
And you're, just to clarify, you're talking about like if it's a 200 megawatt battery, you're deploying all 200 megawatts in 4 hours.
Yeah,
But if you're only deploying 100 megawatts, it is going to last longer.
correct.
4 hours.
Correct. But our interconnection, I mean, that's actually not totally correct. Our interconnection agreement with the grid would be for 200 megawatts. So they would ask for 200 megawatts instantaneously, and we would put it into the grid at that. It would be difficult for us to do a lesser amount for a longer period.
You chunk it into 200 megawatt
Yeah.
chunks and then fire it off, yeah.
Yeah.
But this isn't connected to any green energy production.
That's correct.
So it really has nothing to do with whether or not a solar farm is producing during the day. The question really is, when is electricity cheap? And that's when you buy it. And then when is electricity expensive? And that's when you sell.
That's correct. And the goal isn't so much, I mean, over time and with deployment of stabilizing the grid, you get rid of the peaks and valleys, so you're preserving that lower cost electricity.
Yeah.
You don't have these giant peaks.
So functionally, in this area, you're probably just buying electricity when it's cheap in the middle of the night and selling what's expensive in the middle of the day.
But they don't get a pick when they sell the electricity. That's the Southwest Power Pool telling them when to dispatch. So they don't get a say, sit there and kind of wait for the market to hit the peak and then put it all out on the grid. The Southwest Power Pool is sending them a signal saying, okay, we need 200 megawatts over here.
And we can provide it for X dollars. And
Right.
Then, and
They
then
don't get
Southwestern
a-
Power Pool looks at another generator and says they can provide it for Y dollars, and it's a market. So
They
it's
take the cheapest.
That's where the profit comes from. It's
That's correct.
buying cheap, selling high.
That's correct.
Like it's really
arbitrage.
Yeah, this really is a profit thing more than it is a green energy thing, because
Well-
it's not connected to a green.
The-
It's not connected to a green energy source.
I actually agree with that.
Yeah, I guess, Commissioner Schulte, are you saying this is a green energy
No,
thing?
I'm
Okay.
saying it's not. That
Correct.
It's really just about the profit than it is about green energy.
There is certainly a profit here, like with any business. But as we've talked about, there's lots of benefits to consumers in the electric grid as well.
Yeah, well, it stabilizes the, long discussion about economics there, but
Yeah.
I get that. Okay.
We can go further.
You probably know more than I do, but I do know the buy low, sell high theory. Anyway, anything else for these gentlemen? You'll be
I guess I do have one more.
Sure.
And maybe I should have asked George this. but
We'll bring George back later if you
I-
want.
I'll just maybe make a note about decommissioning. That was a question that we had a lot with the previous one, and that wasn't, and maybe that's related to an actual application, but that's something I meant to ask.
We'll have George come back, unless you gentlemen.
All I can say about decommissioning is we are very experienced with establishing a decommissioning plan within a community. It's something we've experienced in other regions.
Okay.
And we would expect that as part of a special, it's a great point, that always comes up. We should have brought it up earlier. That would be part of any special permit application, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll bring George back. And you'll be available if we have
We will.
any follow-up questions.
Thank you.
Very good. Moving on to the next one then. Any members of the public wishing to speak in support of the application? Seeing none. Hang on one second here. Gonna work. All right, no one wishing to speak in support. Any members of the public wishing to speak in opposition? You'll need to be sworn in, sir.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name.
Ben Polmeisel. Now, you've already covered a lot of the topics that I prepared to speak about, so I'm just going to express my opinion for today, so don't hold me legally liable for it. First, I guess I want that one up there too. I was asked what I could say today that would influence the way you think about large battery installations, also known as BESS and ag zones. My answer, probably nothing, because most of you are already politically and financially connected to the success of projects like this and other projects associated with these batteries. But I will take time off work, come down here, let my voice be heard. I have learned over the last 9 to 10 months that the Board of County Commissioners are not always looking out for those of us that live in the county. Once I believed the City Council did what was best for the residents of Lincoln, and also the County Commissioners did what was best for those of us that did not live in Lincoln. When I researched the laws, ordinances, resolutions that have been changed, amended, and passed to make this very meeting necessary, and by the very people I believe looked out for us country folk, I was disappointed. Here's a resolution from 2020, and you might recognize some of the names on there. Now, back to this photo. Here's agricultural definitions. First, if you haven't already, please read the definitions that can be found in the Lancaster County zoning regulations, and look at the 2 pictures that show how BESS will look in the cornfields of Lancaster County. They don't look very compatible with agriculture to me, or encourage a vigorous agricultural industry, or prevent urban sprawl. I particularly like this one because it shows the razor wire on top of the fence. Now, the applicants will come back up here and make promises about screening and different fencing, but I just don't feel like I can trust those promises. From one who doesn't even live in our county, and the other who doesn't even live in our state. Second, here's an article from June explaining all the money that NPPD, OPPD, and LES are spending to produce energy in the future. I will read some of the highlights. As part of this first significant expansion in 2 decades, NPPD plans to spend more than $1.5 billion to add nearly 700 megawatts of new power generation at its Sheldon Station in southern Lancaster County. The Princeton Road Station project will add 694 megawatts of power. NPPD plans an even bigger expansion in the future. The utility is planning to spend more than $1 billion to add combustion turbines that will generate 717 megawatts of power at its Beatrice power station. To meet the demand, OPPD over the next few years is planning to add 4 natural gas-powered turbines, 3 at its Cass County station, 1 at its Turtle Creek station in Sarpy County. All combined will generate up to 900 megawatts of power, or about enough power to power the entire city of Lincoln during peak summer demand. That's on top of the 600 megawatts of natural gas generation capacity OPPD is already adding this year. Another reason NPPD is adding gas-fired electricity generation is for reliability. The Southwest Power Pool, a regional transmission organization, has developed a new resource adequacy regulations that require utilities to have higher on-demand capabilities, especially during the winter months. That means they need to have more power generated by nuclear or fossil fuels rather than the renewable sources such as solar and wind. LES plans to install 2 gas turbines to its Terry Bundy generating facility. All right, well, we covered that. All right, the best projects are here to support the industrial solar complex that is proposed and already approved by you all. Without the best, the solar complex could not meet the reliability standard for SPP. All right, here's another article that NPD is looking to put another nuclear plant in Nebraska, and Hallam is already near the top of their list. Let's look at where they get their power already. NPPD, 0.3% of their energy comes from solar. Southwest Power, 1.8% comes from solar. I know they want to distance themselves from the solar project, but it's all one in my opinion. All right, what does this tell us? NPPD, OPPD, LES, Norris Public Power, they don't need this BESS or solar complex.
Sure.
This text amendment, I'm almost done, sir.
Thank you.
This text amendment is only to further the solar project, and everybody knows it, whether they admit it or not. Here's what I know. If this amendment fails and the energy projects associated with them don't happen, the lights will stay on. No one in Lancaster County or Nebraska will know the difference. But if the projects do happen, we, the residents, will have to deal with the consequences every day. Some people in Lincoln will pat themselves on the back because they helped save the planet. It won't. And a few politically connected people will make a lot of money.
Thank you, sir.
All right, can I finish one more thing, sir? Because you guys talked about it earlier.
All right. One more.
Okay, one last point. According to the United States Census Bureau, the population of the U.S. has increased 50 million since 2000. Food security is an important issue. According to the information provided by NPPD, the Princeton Road Station, will produce 694 megawatts on 202 acres of land. That's 3.4 megawatts per acre. According to NextEra, the solar company that you guys are aware of, if both phases are completed, the Panama Energy Center will produce 304 megawatts on 2,442 acres of land. That's 0.12 megawatts per acre. What a dumb way to waste prime crop growing land just to get us some tax credits.
You are well over. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Sir.
Any other members of the public wishing?
Can I have copies of those? Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name.
Excuse me, my name is Kim Top. I have many, many concerns about this, as most of you know, because you've seen me here before. The damage that will do to a lot of things, real estate, our values, our homes. But my biggest concern is the safety and the risk they bring to our backyards. If you've not seen the facts and the history of the explosions these BESS systems cause and the destruction they do, you're not doing your job. Aside from the explosions are the gas fires that are not uncommon in rural Lancaster County. We've also shown you videos of those. We all sat here, all of you included, and this room was really full, while NextEra told us, no problem. Fire safety's no problem. Even though Lincoln Fire Department doesn't help us, State Fire Marshal doesn't help us, they said no problem. We will supply the residents with backpacks that each have a few bottles of water in them. They can sprinkle that on the fire because there's not room between the panels or the able to get in the fences for fire trucks or tractors, because out there I know you all live in the city, but when we have a fire, the farmers go out with tractors and disc and they help put the fire out. Sometimes we even have wind in this part of the country. The flames get really high. Tell me, if your backyard or your front yard was a blaze of flames, you're in your house, maybe your kids, maybe your grandkids. If you have that one backpack with a couple bottles of water, I bet you feel really safe and confident that you can sprinkle water on the fire and get it out. You won't have to call 911. We don't have 911 within a few minutes. I kind of doubt that, if that's the case. I noticed how most of you are reading your phones while Ben was here testifying, looking down. Your body language tells us a whole lot, a whole lot. We're not dumb. Continuing to approve everything and anything that NextEra and all their friends request makes it very loud and very clear to us that you're comfortable putting us, all of us, in the county at risk in the exact situation that I don't think you're comfortable with. My question is this: how many human lives, our lives in the country, not you in the city, but us in the country, how many human lives is it really worth to each of you that don't want to look us in the face when we're here? You're smiling and grinning and almost hanging over the counter when NextEra is up here talking, or the representatives. Your oath said you'd represent us, the constituents. I really would like to know when you take that oath seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other members of the public wishing to speak in opposition?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. I just have a few
Can you
questions.
start by stating your name?
Oh, Sandy Hermish.
Thank you.
I wasn't planning on talking, but I do have a few questions. I mean, this gentleman up here to give us all these information on how safe these standards are. My question is, since those are in place, he says fires do occur, but they're not common. How many have occurred and why? And is that okay to have that in our backyard? Another question, where are these batteries coming from? Are they coming from China? Do we have any guarantee what's in these batteries, who's producing them in our backyard? I know we said before you wanted to limit stuff coming from China. Are we going to limit where these batteries can be made and where they're coming from? I think you guys are all talking about, okay, when somebody wants a permit, we'll go over all this. I feel this stuff needs to be in place before we can even talk about having this stuff. We need to know where they're going to be built. How far from these substations can they go? There needs to be rules. We can't say, oh, this is probably what we're going to do, because we all know when this happens, you can approve whatever you want. We need rules and regulations. Who's going to have the setbacks? Who's going to have what? You say yes, some fences, maybe no fences, trees, how far from homes? We have no guarantees. And we now have heard that NPD and OPD don't even really care about this or want it. Do we know that for sure, that they even want this built by their substation? Just a few questions. Also, are these going to be built on public land that they're going to lease, or are they going to own the land they're going to put these batteries on? We don't know that either, do we? Do we have any guarantees on this decommissioning? You guys set up here, these companies are getting defunded by our government. Who knows they're going to be around? Who knows if this money's going to be available in 15 years? Who's going to pay to decommission this stuff if it's sitting out there? I feel like we have to have some guarantees in place. You county people are responsible to protect us. We need those safeties in place. And you talk about fire. The funniest thing is, they go to the city fire department and say, oh, is this safe to put up here? Oh, sure, no problem. But have you went and looked at our volunteer rural communities? They don't have anything to come put these fires out. They don't have the ability. And yet that's where we're putting these things out in the rural community. I really feel like we need protections in place. If you're going to approve this, there needs to be a whole lot of things written down and guaranteed to every one of us in Lancaster County. We need to know where they can be built, how far from substations. We need to know what the decommissioning plan is going to be in place by a reliable engineer that isn't just telling you what you want to hear. All I'm asking is for some common sense. If we don't really need these things in our backyard, why would we put them there? Why would we do that? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no other members of the public wishing to speak in opposition, we'll move on to any members of the public wishing to speak in a neutral capacity. All right, very good. And we will, the staff, if George, and actually we have a member of the health department. I would like to have them come forward as well.
Commissioners, while they're coming up, I'll read into the record some letters we've received. We've received letters in opposition from Mark Freoff, Natalie Gunther, Andrew Statsny, Dustin Lorenzen, Amy Keetle, Sandy Hermish, Tony Darrow, Paul Hombum, and Mike Bevins. And I'll need to swear you in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
So, George, we've heard a lot of comments about decommissioning in particular. I know we wanted to circle back to that topic with you. Are there decommissioning standards in place at this time, or would that be something we'd be discussing with a special permit?
So that was specifically discussed with the proposal, actually with the initial city proposal, and it was considered that these containers are 20 to 40 feet in length generally, and as the applicant stated, most of the electrical is underground, that compared to like a wind facility, there wasn't something necessarily generally exceptional to this that would warrant a decommissioning plan, automatically. However, that could be added. There's already a general provision that the Planning Commission may impose other such conditions, so that could cover it. Or if the board deemed it appropriate, you could specifically include a decommissioning plan. But it wasn't thought to be something that was essential given the type of this proposal versus like a wind turbine, which is more unusual in scale.
Does that answer your question, Matt? I know you
Yes,
wanted to
yeah.
discuss this. Okay, very good. Sir, would you introduce yourself and tell us your part in exploring this proposal, this test?
Sure. My name is Chris Schroeder with the Lincoln Lancaster County Health Department, and we did review, when people raise certain concerns, we did look into those. I will say that we did identify battery energy storage system fires as the main public health risk. I mean, you can talk about, industry standard practices and technologies. And with that said, if there is a fire, we would make the same recommendations as any man-made structure fire. So think about someone's house catches fire, we would advise people avoid exposure to smoke. Because honestly, we've heard that, well, the smoke emitted is more toxic. Actually, all smoke is toxic. So it'd be hard to say, how much more toxic it is. So again, we would still say avoid exposure to smoke. So that might mean downwind evacuations, if a fire does break out. So.
Yeah. There was some discussion of sound, Chris. I mean,
Sure.
We have county sound regulations.
So the limits that got put into the text amendment very closely mirror, in fact, I think they're almost exactly the same as our city noise code. And so the way they're regulated is that it's on the receiving land use or zoning. So someone complains, then we'd look at their zoning. Let's just say it's AGR. That's the most restrictive or the most stringent standard, and that's actually at the property line. So if there was a complaint, building and safety, they do investigate zoning complaints. They would contact us, and we would go out and take noise readings.
Anything else of note that you guys investigated, Chris?
Site contamination, that was raised as a concern. So anytime there's physical damage, whether it be from extreme weather or fires, we would recommend or actually have them conduct a site assessment. Then our hazmat team would get involved to ensure that the site is properly cleaned up.
Okay. We're very fortunate to have people like you looking at this stuff for us. Commissioners, any more questions for staff? All right. Thank you both. Appreciate your time. And now there is rebuttal by the applicant if they would like to exercise that.
Chair Vest, Vice Chair Yocum, Commissioners, again, David Levy, Baird Home Law Firm, 625 South 14th Street in Lincoln, on behalf of the applicant, Justin Adams with Eolian. We'll be very brief. Justin, will you talk a little bit about how energy storage works with all forms of generation, such as natural gas turbines and the things we heard about?
Yeah, so as was pointed out, the grid is a mix of different generation sources. There are right now peaks and valleys in the grid, as was shown on the graph during the presentation. So those peaks and valleys exist today, no matter how much wind or solar is on the grid. They will still be there. This is an old grid strategy to make it more reliable. There are pump storage facilities in other parts of the country that have been around for 100 years. The other thing I want to point out is that all of these turbines, whether it's gas, coal, or a nuclear facility, they all need maintenance, and they all have scheduled outages. And during those scheduled outages, the grid can be put under a lot of stress. And this type of facility would help alleviate that stress and allow for the needed maintenance of these facilities to keep the lights on. The other side benefit it has is that those peaks and valleys stress these turbines, these very expensive, very hard to build turbines. And by eliminating those stresses to them, it can extend the lifespan of a turbine or a power plant long term.
Thank you. There was a comment made about batteries coming from China. I would just note there are state laws that deal with that. Buying equipment and installing electrical equipment that comes from certain countries that are on certain lists set under federal law. Of course, any project like this would comply with those laws. Today, tariffs would make it very difficult to buy them from China as well. The only other thing I'll say is decommissioning, again, always comes up. It's a very important point. As a special permit application, I would fully expect that there would be a requirement to have a decommissioning plan, to provide a decommissioning plan that would be acceptable ultimately to the Planning Commission or on appeal to the county board. That said, when our first proposal, I don't remember the exact language to the city, had a requirement in it for a decommissioning plan, and just like this current draft or proposal before you requires the application to include an emergency management plan, if you wanted to include in the text amendment and in the zoning regulations a requirement for an acceptable decommissioning plan, that is something that we would be open to. Again, I think you can deal with it in the special permit process, but if you wanted to deal with it here, at least on the broad strokes, you could certainly do that as well. And with that, I don't have anything further. We're happy to answer any final questions.
Commissioners?
There's one other thing that someone mentioned was the location of the company. Where's Eolian headquartered? I'm just curious.
Eolian is headquartered in California.
In California, okay.
Burlingame, to be exact, correct?
Yep, Burlingame, California.
What about on the fire thing as well? Fire separation, you talked about steel containers spread out. Is there any fire barriers like concrete walls or anything like that that have been used in other places to go a step further to make sure that the fire is
The only time those have been used is when the standards of NFPA are reduced. So if you were to reduce a prescribed distance, you would put a fire separation wall with that.
So NFPA dictates that separation between the containers. If for some reason you wanted to put them closer together, you'd have to mitigate that non-compliance with that code.
We've never done that, and I wouldn't recommend. I mean, it's a much more expensive solution as opposed to making it more spread out.
Be a lot more intrusive construction as well.
Is there, you talked about a lot of heat sensors and things like that. Is there any sort of fire suppression option that can be put on something like this?
The fire suppression is prevention in general. There are deflagration features to the facility. Deflagration, which essentially if there were a heating event in there and gases were to build within the container itself, they can be vented to prevent a more extreme sort of event. Yeah, combustion. Which again lowers the probability of a large spread out fire.
Okay.
One other thing I would mention, these batteries, you hear about car battery fires sometimes. You build a battery for a car to be light because you got to move it around, and moving it around uses the battery. These you don't have to move around, so you don't really care what they weigh. And so these are made with iron, which is a much less combustible substance than the nickel that's in a battery that might be in an electric car or something like that. It makes them very heavy, but it doesn't matter because you're not moving them anywhere. So that's another point about these particular batteries that makes them safer and not exactly comparable to other types of batteries that you might read about having fire issues.
Final thing, David, you opened by saying that it was unanimously approved by City Council. I don't think that was true. I think that there was
That's right. Commissioner Duden did vote against it. I apologize. Thank you for correcting me.
Just out of curiosity, since we've raised it, how do you put of these type of batteries, how do you put a battery fire out? Is it special chemicals?
There is no special equipment required for dealing with a battery fire. In general, you would use water to spray adjacent containers if there was a concern that heat might be building on those adjacent containers, and that would be used to prevent the spread. What usually happens is they let the event sort of burn itself out, and they don't burn very well. They sort of smolder and
won't make a special effects movie out of a battery fire then.
Again, a very rare occurrence.
Very good.
Of course.
Anything else, commissioners? Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. And I just want to clarify that I'm going to ensure that the entire board is present when we take our vote. We do have someone absent next week, so we won't be voting next Tuesday. It looks like Tuesday, September 2nd has the agreement of everyone. Matt, are you in agreement with that?
Sorry.
Tuesday, September
Yes.
2nd?
Yep.
Krista?
Yes.
Chelsea, September, okay.
What's good for
So
me?
we will be taking the vote on this matter in 2 weeks on Tuesday, September 2nd at our regular meeting.
Day after Labor Day.
Day after Labor Day, and there will not be any more testimony taken at that time. So that's where we're at with that. Thank you both.
Thank you, commissioners.
With that, we will close the public hearing and move on with the agenda, Mr. Clerk.
Commissioners, that brings us to item 6, public comment. Members of the public wishing to speak on items related to county business not on the agenda may do so at this time.
Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on items related to county business not on the agenda? Any members of the public wishing to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Item 7, announcements. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners will not hold a staff meeting on Thursday, August 21st, 2025, to attend the legislative retreat in room 113 of the County City Building. Lancaster County Board of Commissioners will hold the following meetings and public hearings on Tuesday, August 26, 2025, beginning at 9 a.m. in room 112 of the County City Building. The Board of Commissioners regular meeting, the public hearing regarding amending the Lancaster County General Assistance Guidelines, public hearing regarding the instituting of eminent domain proceedings against New Generations Properties LLC, public hearing regarding the instituting of eminent domain proceedings against iRent LLC, and a public hearing regarding Lancaster County's proposed budget for fiscal year 2025-26 immediately following the Board of Commissioners meeting. County Commissioners can be reached at 402-441-7447 or commish@lancaster.ne.gov. Lancaster County Board of Commissioners meetings are streamed live on YouTube and Facebook. LNK TV apps are available on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Item 8 is adjourned.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion second to adjourn. Please call the roll.
Schulte?
Yep.
Yocum?
Yes.
Flowerday?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Best?
Yes, we are adjourned. Thank you. How's everybody doing? Do we want 5 minutes before we go on to BOE?
Yeah, that'd be great. If I could.
A quick thought.
Yeah. Only 5. I gotta be somewhere to land.
Okay, only 5 then. We'll be out and back. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Lancaster County Board of Equalization meeting for Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. Mr. Clerk, please begin the meeting.
A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is located at the wall at the rear of the hearing room. All written materials to be discussed at today's meeting can be viewed at the county's website at lancaster.ne.gov. Printing options are available upon request. Item 1 is minutes. Approval of the minutes of the Board of Equalization meeting held on Thursday, August 7th, 2025.
Second?
Motion and second to approve the minutes. Please call the roll.
Yocum,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Vest.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 2 is the additions and deductions of tax assessment rolls.
I approve the additions and deductions to the tax assessment rolls.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Please call the roll.
Yocum,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Vest.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 3 is the 2025 homestead exemption applications. Late filing for the following: Kenneth Arenas, Daryl Frazier, Kenneth and Jana Burkhart, Audrey Berline, Jennifer Posnicker, Jerry Reed, Alice Voska, Leon and Helen Page, Gordon Deborah Gorman, Jack C. Riggins, Brian Brogan, Margaret Adams, Janet Going, Rita Provost, Denise Ross Kirkland, Beth Renee McClure, Lang Dong Chu, Lyle Wheeler, Shelley Thornton, and Dennis and Tanya Smallwood.
Good morning, Board. Jacob Van Pelt, the Assessor, Register of Deeds Office. We're presenting these 20 homestead exemption applications that were filed and received after the statutory deadline. The deadline for the 25 homestead exemption was June 30th. According to statute 77-3512, the Board of Equalization may, by majority vote, extend the deadline to on or before July the 20th for an application if they meet certain criteria, which includes submitting the appropriate application as well as a letter formally requesting the extension. All of these applications submitted today have met the listed criteria, and we are recommending that the Board extend the filing deadline so we can consider them as timely filed.
I move approval.
Motion and second to approve. Now, Jacob.
Yes, sir.
This is just extending the deadline for application.
Correct.
They still have to meet all the criteria before.
Correct.
they be
Yeah,
approved.
this just allows us to look at them.
Okay.
So,
We just take a vote to permanently extend the application.
well,
We're
and,
never not gonna do this. There's
Yeah.
never gonna be a day where we go no.
and last year we had 19 applications and they were approved by the Board on the 20th as
And
well.
people still
So,
have to go through the extra steps, it's what
Yeah.
it is, but, yeah.
Well,
Would be nice.
It's one of the few liberties we have.
I was
You
going
know,
to say,
we
it's the only thing we get to do here, so by all means, motion and second to approve extending the application deadline. Please call the roll.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Yocum,
Yes.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Vest.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 4, notice of assessed valuation change for property taxation purposes for Suzanne and Michael Short.
Good morning. Brian Grimm, Lancaster County Assessor, Register of Deeds. Regarding parcel ID 19-12-300-002-000, owned by Susanna Michael Short. This was one that during our routine maintenance of the property, doing our soil type and the use types, it had an inadvertent change from a farm site to a home site. That's why there is a difference in the valuations there, and we would ask that where we made this clerical error, that we would go backwards and go to the 426.6, where it should be valued as a farm site instead of a home site.
So this is a reduction from 510,600 to the 426.
Correct.
Okay, based on the change.
Yes.
Very good. Commissioners?
We're looking for a motion to approve.
Yeah.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Please call the roll.
Flowerday,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schulte,
Yes.
Yocum,
Yes.
Vest.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 5 is the Lancaster County Assessor Register of Deeds 3-year assessment plan for 2026 through 2028.
This is just a synopsis of what we think we're going to do for this tax year and then the 2 following tax years. We like to kind of try to stick to it as much as we can, but sometimes it's a little bit difficult to know what we're going to do 2 years from now. We would just ask that you review these. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
When are you doing residential again?
Residential is going to depend on the market. I think for us as a whole, as an office, what we're really going to attempt to do is be consistent with our level of value and try to maintain that every year instead of having a really high level of value one year and a low value the next. I think that's our biggest concerns, is just trying to make sure we maintain that level.
So is this plan, I guess I don't see, I mean, basically this plan just says we're gonna review everything out every year, right? Am I reading that wrong?
Yeah, because you can't really predict what the market's going to do. We could have a really strong market, we could have a weak market, and basically we have to react to commercial, agricultural, and residential if the valuations are going up or down.
Given the valuation surges, I want to say well, there's not a lot of a plan here, but it's not your fault, and that's what, given the value surges, I totally agree with it.
Yeah, it's very generalized.
Yeah. How do you predict that kind of thing? So it's I don't know. Yeah. I mean, in theory, we were supposed, we've always said we would do residential about every 3 years, and we've done it every other year that I've been on the board, and that's barely kept up. And that's just because that's what the market did.
Yep.
Yeah.
So why give us a 3-year plan if it just says we'll do it when it's appropriate?
It's statutory.
Okay.
Makes sense to me. Very good. Thank you, Brian.
All right, thank you.
Commissioners, that brings us to item 6.
I'm sorry, do we need to accept the plan or anything? Do we need a vote on that?
Didn't get that sense. Brian, you're not looking for any action on our part at this time.
No, it's just an acceptance of the
cool. Big thumbs up.
I think we did that. Okay. Okay, Matt, back to you.
Public hearing, the public hearing on the motor vehicle tax exemption application for St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Church.
We'll now open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on the motor vehicle tax exemption application? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Item 7, the public hearing action items on the motor vehicle tax exemption applications.
I move approval of this tax exemption application.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Please call the roll.
Yocum?
Yes.
Flowerday?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Schulte?
Yes.
Vest?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 8 is public comment. Members of the public wishing to speak in items related to County Board of Equalization business not on the agenda may do so at this time.
Any members of the public wishing to speak? Seeing none.
Item 9 is adjournment.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion second to adjourn. Please call the roll.
Schulte?
Yes.
Yocum?
Yes.
Flowerday?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Vest?
Yes.
Motion carries.